how to regain control of your anger feelings, your sad feelings, any feelings that you're going through. That was Helen coughing, by the way, within minutes. How to regain control over those negative feelings. We're good. Fast. Now, I know that we cover this topic a lot. Before we start, hi, if it's your first time seeing this, my name's Alan Galang, neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, been a student since 2005 to 2015, became a practitioner in 2016, all the way up to now to 2025, time of making this video. And I've been fortunate enough to not only drag my own life out of the depths of a dark hell, almost committing suicide nearly 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, actually, to now getting in this place where I'm able to help people from all walks of life, whether they're trying to get over their own thoughts of ending their life, to helping people that have lost a loved one because their life has ended, to even people that are starting off a business, a company, changing their careers, and they're just completely terrified and they kind of know what to do, but they're taking the steps based on fear, which in most cases we know doesn't really get them to any place that they truly want to be. My goal in this, my thought process in this video today is to show you one of the skill sets that we use for them to help them regain control over their feelings. Because as you know, we can think of stuff all day. We can be intellectual about stuff. We can be smart as we can possibly be. But without confidence, without clarity, and without having some certain level of faith that we can get over this problem, whatever that problem is that you're going through, oftentimes when we lose sight of what's the big picture, as Helen likes to say, a lot of times when we get rabbit holed into the problem just starts to magnify in our mind. And that's what can create frustration and chaos and the spiral of negative feelings that we don't always know how to get out of. I think Tony Robbins said it best a couple months ago during a seminar talk, a webinar, a Zoom, on one of his massive Zooms where he had like hundreds of thousands of people there. He said, before you ever try to make a change in your life, you don't want to focus on the story first. You don't want to focus on the strategy first. And he said most people want that first, but then it's interesting because when he gives away the strategy, like how to get from here to here quickly, he said 99% of people don't do anything with it. It's great information, great advice. They get a little smarter, but does their life necessarily get better? No. And he said that the number one reason why is because most people do not understand the necessity and the skill set of state change, of emotional state change. And he said, the people who know how to control their feelings at will in the moment, those are the people that do astonishing things. Those are the people who can take broken relationships and mend them into something better, something more useful, something more loving. He said those are the people that can have horrible relationships with their kids and within a few days, weeks, months, years, can create astounding relationships with their kids. Those are the people that can take businesses, jobs, careers that seem to be plummeting, and they can do a state change. They can regain control over the way they feel, which opens up their mind to new possibilities, new outcomes. And so what I want to do for you today is I want to show you one of the methods that's been around for, I don't know how many decades, probably at least 4 decades, that surprisingly, up to this day, a lot of people are not familiar with, at least not around here. Like Helen and I, we live in the city of Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And to this day, when we talk about neuro-linguistic programming, like people ask us, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner. A lot of times people are like, huh, what's that? Like they still don't know. And I don't judge. I wonder why they don't, but it's my job now. I make it my job to get this information out there. So people like yourself who maybe haven't heard of this before or haven't had a chance to use it can get a chance to learn how to utilize these systems, these methodologies, these methods to help improve your situation, your family relationships, your personal relationship. As Tony would say, the quality of your life. So, how to create state change, how to get control over your emotions fast. Here's the number one thing. I believe it was Richard Bandler way back in the 80s that said this. That said this. Richard, just go put this up on the board. Bandler, which again, if you're not familiar with his name, he's one of the co-creators, co-founders of neuro-linguistic programming, spent decades and thousands of hours studying thousands of people on what makes them tick. And one thing he learned way back in the 70s and 80s that he shared with us was that anyone who's feeling a heavy negative emotion, let's say it's anger, let's say it's fear, let's say it's sadness. Some people call it depression when it's reoccurring sadness over and over and over again. He said when he interviewed all these people, the one common denominator that he found across the board, it didn't matter if they were what nationality they were, what race they were, what age they were, male or female. It didn't matter. He said across the board, across the globe, he said the one thing that he noticed is that when he would ask them about, well, what are you imagining? Like what do you see in your head that's causing you to feel this anger, sadness, depression, fear, this hurt, guilt, whatever, the shame? He always said, number one, every single person saw an image in their mind, like a memory that was large in their mind, almost like real life, or sometimes it was larger than life. Now, as I write this down, I'm going to ask you to make note for yourself and just ask yourself, like, are these the things you're experiencing too when you're going through a heavy negative feeling that you just can't shake off? Kind of like the lady in the group that just said, you know, when I get angry, I get so angry, I just can't help it. Right? Number one. Number two, these people also experience their memory, the thing that makes them feel so angry or so sad or so fearful, in color. And oftentimes, they'll see the image or the memory of the thing that makes them feel extremely uncomfortable. Extremely uncomfortable. A lot of times they'll see the image right in front of them. So when they close their eyes or they open their eyes and they're imagining that event, they're imagining that part of their past, the thing that happened to them, or the thing that they imagine happening to them, like it hasn't even happened yet, right? But that usually correlates to things like anxiety, things that we worry about in the future. A lot of times the image is happening right in front of them, or it's happening all around them. Ask yourself, when you feel that negative feeling and you imagine that event or that memory, do you see the image in front of you or all around you? And interestingly enough, there's a lot, okay? Like I think there's at least 20 or 30 of these pieces. I'm going to write down the top 4 or 5 that we've experienced. There's also a feeling that's usually associated. And the feeling usually is some sort of pressure. We call it pressure. We call it pressure, or we call it like a heat. It's like this feeling that usually impacts some part of their head or their chest or their gut, like their stomach, their midsection. So ask yourself, when you think about your negative feeling and a memory comes up or a thought comes up, ask yourself, is that where you feel it? When you think about the feeling, does it hit some part of your head, like right in front of you or in the back? Or do you feel that pressure that's either in your chest or in your stomach, or maybe both? For some people, they've even said that the feeling circulates between their torso, like this part, head to stomach, or sometimes it just circulates between their neck to their chest to their stomach. No matter where it is for you, you might notice that just in this short list alone, you might relate to several of these already. And again, this list is much longer. It's like 30 questions long, but we're just going to leave it to 4 for today, so I don't make this a 2-hour video. I want to try to keep it down to about 10 minutes, maybe 20 at max. Now, this is the problem. Like, this is how the problem shows up in the body, right? What Bandler explained was that he said, if you want to control the emotions, you have to first learn to change and control the modalities or the submodalities. Well, what's a submodality? A submodality in this context just means how your mind and your body process and receive information. And for us being human, the only way that we can process any kind of information or any kind of experience is through our taste, our smell, our sound, like what we hear, what we see visually with our eyes, or what we feel, textile. In other words, like touch. And any of those senses, when we experience something, that information gets lodged through our conscious brain, gets stored in our subconscious, but our subconscious sometimes plays with those submodalities, with those senses, and sometimes it can make it larger than life, or it can make it louder, or it can make the feeling that we have 5, 10, 20, 100 times bigger inside of our body. So what he said is that one of the fastest ways that he used to help people make the shift, so they would go from feeling really angry to more calm, to being really sad or scared or fearful, to being more relaxed, is he said, I don't try to control just the feelings itself. I control what's triggering those feelings. And so what he would do is he would help people by, number one, if they saw the images in their mind as being larger than life or being large, what he would do is he would help them recreate the same image in their mind, but make it really small, using a different color here so you guys can see the difference. The color, if it was showing up in color, like it was in real life, he would then say, okay, you know what? Let's change the color. And instead, let's make it shaded. Or in this case, make it like an old black and white TV screen. You know, when you watch those old black and white TVs, well, if you're around to see them, a lot of times you would just see like shades. It kind of felt distant because we don't really relate to shades. We see life through color. At least most of us do. Not everyone, but most of us, right? And then he would get them to see the image that's all around them or in front of them. And he would usually pick a side. Like he'd say, take this whole image that you see and move it. Now that it's small, now it's black and white. I want you to move it way to the left or over to the right. Or I want you to imagine what it might look like if it's right behind you, if the image was playing behind you. And then he would take the feelings, which is either in the head or the chest or in the gut. A lot of times it can be in other places, the fingers, the legs, back of the neck. But the most common would be here, head, chest, or gut. And he would get them to physically imagine what it would be like to move those feelings out of the body. So he would actually help these people take these feelings and move it out of their physical being, out of their body. And usually what would happen is after somebody would make just these shifts, I mean, again, the list is longer, but just off these alone, when someone just does this already, many times people would feel at least a 50, 60, or 70% or more degrade or reduction in those negative feelings. And the reason is because Imagine the circle is the brain, okay? At the front of your brain, you got the conscious mind. At the back of the brain or the middle back, you have the subconscious or the unconscious part. When you're making these shifts, the conscious would say, okay, yeah, sure, we can do that. But, you know, if it just changes here, the person's still stuck with the negative feelings. But when they're able to make the shifts here in the subconscious, that's where lasting change occurs. Now, you might be watching this and saying, like, if you've never seen this before, you might be saying, okay, Alan, yeah, I've tried that. That's bull. That's crap. I tried it. It never worked for me. Or I can't imagine why it would be so easy. Or if it's not that, if it's that easy, why doesn't everybody else do it? Like, I don't think so. I've never heard of anyone doing this. Like the list goes on, right? And if that's how you feel, trust me, I've been there. I get you. And if this was all that it took, that'd be amazing. But it's not. Now, if you're wondering why it doesn't work for some people, actually for anybody, like if anybody just tried to do it here right now, your brain would pretty much go, yeah, okay, did it. Don't feel a shift. So there is a missing link here that I need to explain. And this is why Bandler, in my opinion, and John Grinder and Tad James and Tony Robbins and everybody who's mastered neuro-linguistic programming, even Michael Stevenson, like the list of names is in the thousands of people that have really mastered this over the generations, over the decades. One of the things that I find beautiful about them is that they understood one thing that 99% of people in the world do not. And here's the thing. The conscious mind acts as a gatekeeper. It tries its best to keep you safe or to keep things logical. And it doesn't want your brain, your whole brain, especially your subconscious, to absorb anything that can hurt you, that can destroy you, that can make your quality of life worse. This is why if somebody says, jump off a bridge, you're not going to do it. Or stab yourself, you're not going to do it. Shoot yourself, poison yourself, you're not going to do it. Not unless you're at that place where you're just like in so much pain that the thought of not being here seems more pleasurable in the moment. Like that's a different mindset, okay? I'm talking about somebody who's just going through the negative feelings, but they're still somewhat in a normal mental state. The reason why this doesn't work is because the gatekeeper will always say, no. No. In other words, no, I will not accept your brain to take in any new information that seems foreign, that seems dangerous, that seems unfamiliar. And please make note, okay? Anything unfamiliar to your conscious brain, it will instantly reject at first. Let me say that one more time. Anything that your brain says, this is new, I don't know anything about it, it could be dangerous because I don't know, will always reject the new thought process, the new belief, the new anything, if it doesn't have any past reference to it being a positive experience. Because your brain is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to keep you alive. Happiness is something you've got to develop in yourself. It's something you have to pursue. It's a skill set. It's not something that we're just naturally given in life. We are as babies, but even babies cry. Even babies know what it's like to have pain, to feel hungry, to feel some level of fear. So even babies don't get pure happiness all the time. And as humans, that gets evolved into our adulthood, which means that in order to make this kind of change, Bandler knew that he had to get past the subconscious mind. So what he had to do is he had to develop a way for the conscious to learn that in order to make these changes, the conscious mind had to understand number one thing that stops it from doing anything. He had to create a safety procedure. A procedure or a method that basically taught the conscious mind, the part of the brain, that this process of change is completely safe. that it's okay to have this experience, that no one's going to get hurt. You're not going to get hurt. If anything, your life is going to get better because you're learning to control your own feelings instead of these feelings controlling you. There's a method to doing that. And to keep this video short, I'm not going to get into it today, but I want you to know that when you want to make change, if ever you've just tried to tell yourself like, okay, I'm just going to be positive today. I'm just going to be, I'm not going to get mad today. And it doesn't work. This is why. Because even though you're trying to consciously make the shift yourself, you got to get past your own conscious gatekeeper. And if you don't know how to get past the conscious gatekeeper, well, now you're in trouble, because the only way to make the change is through hard force, is through hard repetition, which is okay. Like if that's all you got, it's better than nothing. It's just doing it through repetition only is usually long. It's very painstaking. A lot of times it can be demoralizing because you got to do it 50, 60, 100 times. And most people can't hang in there. Like I can't, we've had clients say this before. They're like, I can't yell at my wife or my husband 100 times before I get to it. I might not have 100 chances to yell at them before I learn the lesson. Like I need something faster, Alan. Getting past your own mental gatekeeper and teaching your conscious mind that this process of change is safe is the fastest way. It's the way that we use, that Helen and I use, to take people that have had 30, 40, 50 years of trauma, of fear, of negative emotions connected to their anxiety, connected to their depression. And within 2 hours, 3 hours, in one day, essentially, that repetition of getting constantly angry really fast, or getting scared really fast, or having those feelings that's attached to anxiety just pop up all the time. That's how we're able to diminish it, because we're able to get them through this process of change on the visual in their mind and the emotional shift, but also getting their conscious to accept the change. And I say getting their conscious to accept the change because we don't have control over anyone we work with. We don't want it either. If I'm working with you, you need to know I don't have control over your mind. All of this stuff that you're seeing is not based on what I'm doing to you. It's based on my guidance. However, my guidance of having you do this to yourself. Kind of like a GPS on your phone. Your phone doesn't control your steering wheel. You do. Your GPS guides you. It just says turn left here, turn right there. But you're always in the controller seat. You're always in the driver's seat. The same thing happens with this. So to sum up this entire conversation, number one, please make note. If you've got a negative feeling that just keeps popping up all the time, ask yourself, do you see it in color? Do you see it life size or larger than life size? Does it show up all around you like you're reliving it, or right in front of you? And the feeling, is it like pressure, or is it like heat, or both? And do you find that feeling in your body shows up in your head, your chest, or your gut, your stomach? Make note of those 4 first. And on another video, I'll talk a little bit more, a little bit deeper about how we make that shift. Because today I kind of just touched on it a little bit, but I can go on into it a little bit more on another video. If you'd like to know that, go ahead and click like and leave us a comment below. Say, hey, I want to see the next video. And I'll be happy to show you in a video how this makes change in the mind, in the body, and quickly too. Quickly to the point where you can relive that memory, or you can go back to that thing that triggers you. And instead of feeling triggered all the time, getting angry, sad, depressed, whatever it is that you feel, you might notice that feeling of calm just kicks in without you trying. Like that's the part that I didn't emphasize on, but I should. This process of change is supposed to happen, and it does happen without your physical effort. Once the technique is done, it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction, where you hit the knee and the knee just kicks up. You're not thinking about the knee kicking up, it just happens. Well, the same thing happens with this change. all of our clients that have gone through this transformation, when we ask them, tell me about that thing that gave you the feelings connected to anxiety. Tell me about the thing that used to make you so angry. Like, I want you to close your eyes, relive it, be there. Imagine reliving that experience right now. And every single one of them will just close their eyes. They'll go back to that experience and they'll say things like, well, I see it. I don't really feel anything. I'm there again, Alan, but I'm not so angry anymore. And it's almost shocking to them because it's the first time they ever had a taste of what it's like to have full control over the way they feel about a given situation from their past or present. This video is just about awareness and letting you know that if you're looking for faster change, it is possible. But like anything in life, all great things require great skill. And this is Helen and I sharing a piece of our great skill with you so you can gain some awareness and knowing. You don't have to be stuck with these feelings. You don't have to relive this pain or this hurt or this sadness over and over and over and over again. But it does require learning skill sets, methods, systems that are outside of what's popular today. And you have to be able to learn from some people that have lived it versus just reading it from a book or just watching a YouTube video, or maybe they know it, but maybe they don't. You got to learn from people that have been there. So I hope that message comes through to you today, and I hope this was helpful. Any questions that you've got, any comments as well, leave them down below, okay? Just here to help and to give our 2 cents, because we're living better, we live happier, and we want to give you that opportunity to experience a better life for yourself as well. Hope that helps. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.